Howdy. Hi, everybody. My name is Gino Pack. I'm a solution architect here at Anovia Consulting, and my job is to primarily work from a pre-sales perspective to assist customers with, with planning to implement or upgrade or migrate to Business Central. I've been working with Business Central and Navision for 15 years, but also have spent the last year implementing finance and operations for a distribution company. And I'm super excited to be part of this conversation. Thank you for inviting me, Claude.
Thank you. Alex?
Yeah. Thanks, Claude, and thanks, Gino, for the invite today. My name's Alex Meyer. I work for a company called Delinea, which recently acquired FastPath as a principal software engineer there, helping develop on what used to be called, or still is called, the FastPath Assure product, which provides segregation of duties, change tracking, identity management, security design functionality for a number of different ERPs across the Microsoft Dynamics space, SAP, Oracle, NetSuite, Intact, and so happy to be here today and to chat through focusing on the Dynamics products today, of course, the difference between F&O and BC.
Perfect. Thank you. My name is Claude. I'm a senior consultant in Microsoft Dynamics Business Central applications. I'm doing the implementation for the last 18 years with Business Central, and before it was NAV. Passing by some years with SAP. Also, I did some implementation with SAP. The goal of our session is to discuss and provide educational content for not only consultants, for users, for customers. And you will see we have different experience. We have an MVP with Microsoft. We have Gino with the 15 years of experience. We have multiple companies. The most important is to explain what is Microsoft Business Applications, what we have options, why select this one, why select this one. Then I will begin probably with Gino because BC is smaller than F&O, or F&O is smaller than BC. What is exactly the situation here?
So, it's interesting because in the sort of like the late 90s, early 2000s, Microsoft went around starting to acquire all these ERP products. You got SL, you got GP, you got NAV, you got Exapta, and for a number of years after all these acquisitions happened, you didn't really understand what Microsoft's direction was going to be with their business applications. You just know that they had all of these ERP systems. Some of them overlapped with each other. Some of them did very unique requirements. But I'd say over the last, 6 years or so, Microsoft has made it, pretty clear the direction that they were heading with ERP. They were going to have an ERP solution meant for small, medium-sized organizations, and then they were going to have an enterprise-level ERP offering. And that's what they did with NAV, or which is now Business Central, and finance and operations, or finance and supply chain. And Business Central is meant for that small, medium-sized market. It is a easy to use, easy to implement, but powerful ERP system that allows organizations that are coming from maybe QuickBooks or an accounting-based system or a legacy ERP system to a more modern and robust platform that will fit most of their business needs for customers that are, in that small to mid-sized market.
Then, Alex, do you think F&O is the big brother of BC, or no relation between them other than the Microsoft name?
Yeah, I mean, I think to kind of piggyback on what Gino said, right? The origins of both of these systems, right, with AX and NAV. AX was definitely more manufacturing based, and so you get the more complex businesses, right, that are going to be running those, just by the nature of kind of where it's kind of targeted. So I don't know if it's a big brother type of scenario. I think you have to look at it from what does the business actually need, right, to see which best fits for that organization, right? There are extremely large organizations that run BC, and there are extremely small organizations that run F&O. It just kind of depends on what they actually need from the application.
And in the roadmap, do you think the question is BC and F&O will stay on the roadmap, then later on Salmon and Great Plains will go outside the market, do you think? Or okay. Let us begin a little bit about the ERP implementation time and cost. And what I'm a customer. I want to implement an ERP. What should I see in my business? Is it the amount of sales? Is it the complexity of my implementation? Is it manufacturing? Is it warehouse? How can I select, Alex, what I want to implement?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think again, I think you have to kind of go back to what's the actual the business need. I don't think that there's like a number, like it's not that if you have 100 users you have to switch to F&O, or if you are a small organization you have to pick BC. It's more about what application best fits your requirements, right? So you have to lay out, what does my business look like, right? What does each segment of that business need from an ERP system? And then kind of lay out F&O and BC or whatever other ERP systems you have, lay them out next to each other and kind of say, okay, does this one perform, like you just mentioned, warehousing, right? Does it do the warehousing in the way that we need it to, right? Because you may have more complex requirements there. So it's more about laying out the business itself and then seeing where that best fits. But like you mentioned, there's some thought, I guess, or at least from and maybe it's from the ERP salespeople, right, that are saying, oh, you're $100 million business, you have to use this ERP, right? Or you have 1,000 users, you have to go use the larger ERP. And it's really, I think sometimes where organizations get into a mindset, oh, well, we have to go with this larger. I think SAP gets that a lot too, where a lot of customers will choose SAP simply because, oh, well, that's the standard. And do they really need SAP? Probably not. Right. So it's kind of one of those situations where the sales kind of lead the organization on that front, right? Because if you get into an ERP system, I think we were just talking about this, where an organization is only using 2 or 3 modules of the entire breadth of the ERP. That's probably a red flag that you're not using the right ERP for your actual business.
Correct. And Gino, for you, what do you think about implementation or ERP selection for the customers? Is it the budget? Because I know that F&O needs, I don't know, 2 to 3 years to be implemented. Or what do you think? Is Business Central? Because we can implement Business Central in 6 months if it's a easy implementation and standard implementation.
Yeah, I think it goes back down to the complexity of the business and how much you're willing to standardize towards an ERP's, functionality. You've got a lot of businesses where you walk in and they've built processes around a legacy system that they have, just because that legacy system did not fill the requirements that their business needed. Okay. There's this concept that we used when I was at my previous organization. We were implementing F&O called fit to standard. How much of the base system are we going to use without having to write a modification? Or how much are we going to change our business processes to fulfill, the requirements of, or to fit what the ERP system is doing? So I think it kind of goes back to, the cost of there's definitely going to be, there's definitely cost differences and time differences between F&O and Business Central, just because of the complexity and the detail that setups and configurations go into between the two systems. But how much is your business willing to conform to what that ERP systems does, so you're not writing a lot of modifications, so you're not adding the complexity that is not really needed, that tend to make these implementations go a lot longer than they actually have to, because I've been on Business Central implementations that have taken 3 years to implement, only because of the complexity of the customer.
Correct.
But I've also my F&O implementation we implemented in 12 months. So but that's the mindset of the business that we had when we were implementing F&O or any implementation that I've been into is the ERP system match the complexity of our business, and can we conform to the standard functionality that comes out of the box with that ERP system?
The other question is, if F&O, we have for sure the finance, we have the purchase, sales, ops, warehouse, manufacturing services. What is the module available in F&O, not available in BC? Do you think we have any module like, I don't know, payroll, for example? It's embedded into F&O, but not available in Business Central. What do you think? Do we have any like flagrant module is not available in one, available in the other?
Yeah. So, go ahead, Alex. If you
No, I was just going to say, I think that gap is starting to become much narrower, right? It used to be like, BC didn't have a lot of the, I guess, BC has added, let me put it this way, BC has added a lot of functionality that used to be those gaps. Truthfully, I don't know all of the, nuances between those, but it's definitely getting closer, right? Where, obviously F&O is definitely allows you to be more, allows more complex scenarios from a business perspective, but there's a lot of functionality in BC that translates to, if you're, again, to Gino's point, willing to utilize the standard of coming from BC, right? And you don't need all the bells and whistles around a particular business process. There's a good chance that BC they'll fit that. But sorry, Gino, I didn't mean to jump in there.
Oh no, you're fine. You're that F&O guy, so I figured you'd chime in first. But yeah, there's some other, there's some other pretty big differences between F&O that make it an enterprise system versus a small or medium-sized business ERP system. Some of the things that I think about is like just advanced warehousing capabilities that F&O has out of the box compared to Business Central. You can F&O comes with an advanced warehousing,
Okay.
a lot of advanced warehousing application, as well as a mobile application that's specifically built for warehousing, where in Business Central they have the mobile application, but I would not call it a warehouse management app. In fact, there's no warehouse management there's no warehouse management functionality built into the Business Central application. So that's typically, you'll find a lot of ISVs that you can add on to Business Central to handle your mobile warehousing, functionality. Another area is a product information management. So if you're a retailer or a manufacturer handling a bunch of different products with a bunch of different versions, F&O does have a lot more capabilities for product information management than Business Central does. Don't get me wrong, Business Central has done a very good job at opening up its ecosystem to ISVs and third-party applications that are easy to just install and tack onto Business Central, and that are very easy to implement. And that's the direction they've gone with that the small, medium business. But that's because, once again, it's geared towards small to medium size businesses. They're not trying to add all of this advanced functionality, because the market that they're trying to sell to doesn't always need all of that.
This is my next question concerning then. We talk about standard functionality like warehouse in Business Central. You add an ISV to make it advanced warehouse, but in F&O probably it's available in the vanilla or in the F&O functionality. Okay, and what about in F&O? Can I add ISV if I need something else, like food business, or I don't know, I'm doing ice cream. Do we have a ISV that we can add on top of an F&O, or we don't have this option like in Business Central?
No, yeah, in F&O you still have the ISV option, right? There's the app source marketplace, just like you have
Okay.
on in BC. I think the one thing I will say is that I think on the BC side it's more potentially, I don't want to say gated, but it's more curated, I think, than on the F&O side, because it just of the way you can apply code to an environment, right? You can it's much more controlled in the BC side, from my experience at least. Whereas in F&O, right, I can go in, and if I have access to a dev environment, I can add any package that I would like to. So it, which is could be seen as a pro and a con depending on how you look at that. But yeah, you still have ISVs. I work for one on the F&O side. We also have BC offerings as well. So I've developed on both sides. But yeah, so there is a marketplace for both of those.
And for the development, is it the same way of doing the development? It's an extension management, and then you can have one, excuse me, I'm not a developer, but can you have a developer on F&O and the same developer can go to Business Central and develop on Business Central, or we have differences on the development level?
So again, going back to the fact that these were two separate, ERPs to begin with, right? They both have their own proprietary language. So BC
Okay.
has AL language, right? F&O has X++, which is Microsoft proprietary language on that side. They both are, I would say, they're similar, right? Because I develop on both, right? I mean, you can have one developer that does both. I don't know how common that is, but it's there's similar functionality on each side, right? Like you said, they both use now an extension based model, which used to be a big difference in the fact that X++, when it was the AX days or even early F&O days, you could actually overlayer code, right? Which is where you are modifying code from Microsoft, and now they've locked that down where you're doing true extension based. So it's truly similar to BC in that sense, where you're hooking into Microsoft code. If you want to modify a form or modify a grid, right, you're hooking in and applying that extension to it, and not directly modifying the underlying source.
Yeah.
Yeah, you talk about the mobile application before. In Business Center, we have a mobile
Yes.
application. What can we do in the mobile application of Business Central? And if you can give us if you have any experience in the mobile application of F&O, what can we do here? What cannot we do here?
Yeah, so Business Central has one consolidated mobile application that is basically an overview of the entire, it's basically another version of the Business Central client. You go in there, you see your card pages, your list pages. Most recently, they added things like barcode scanning and the ability to view pages in a different way, some stuff that wasn't part of the application before because it was previously just very lightweight. But it's a very basic application for you to access your Business Central data fairly quickly. It's not meant to do day-to-day business use. That's just my personal opinion. There may be people out there that use it differently, but my personal opinion, it's just a very lightweight application so anyone can open up their phone, and if they want to look up a customer or a sales order or something, they could, they can do it. But I personally won't enter sales orders on my phone. It's just not very intuitive, but it's a quick access to your ERP systems your business data built into one consolidated application.
F&O is better, Alex, about the mobile application, or also it's like an option on top of the ERP?
Yeah, so there's a couple different variations, right? So F&O does have a mobile entry points, right? That I would call them, right? So like warehousing has its own mobile app or mobile entry point, right? So you can do handheld scanners and actually scan it in. scan products and things like that. There's also like production floor execution, which also has like if you're on the shop floor and you're actually performing some process, right, you can actually log in through that, and they allow for either mobile devices or like terminals as well. So you can kind of set those up, and then depending on what type of device it is, right, you can set those up. There may be, I honestly don't know if there's an actual F&O mobile app. I would say that even if there was, it would be the same like Gino mentioned. It would not be something that I would use. I don't know of anybody. Yeah, I don't know of anybody that uses the mobile app to enter, like you said, any ERP data manually, right? It's always going to be, hey, I scanned this in. Oh, hey, here's the barcode for this, right? And you're for whatever process you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And can I just tack something on, because I think as we're talking about the mobile app, it gives a good example of another big difference between the ERP systems and what makes one more small, medium business and another one more enterprise grade. So when you go back to complexity of business, you're also think about segregation of duties as well. The way Business Central is built is it's built for companies that are a little smaller, that are less complex, that may have duties that cross over each other. And F&O, at least from the way we set it up, when I was at my previous company, was, it's really focused on, okay, I'm an order processor. I have an order processing role, and all my functions within the ERP have to do with order processing.
Yeah.
I cannot see anything to do with the GL or anything to do with finance or, so the segregation of, and it's very similar to the mobile apps. Their mobile apps are separated out to be one for mainly shop floor entry. Another one is for warehouse management, where Business Central's mobile app is just everything's kind of consolidated into one, because the assumption is these smaller medium businesses, it's a lot of things what you hear during an implementation. Well, she does AP, but also does AR because, she's the accountant, so
Yeah.
I just thought I'd bring up that point. I know it's backtracking a little bit, but I think talking about the mobile apps, I thought it'd be important to mention. Yeah.
And what about the integration with other systems? Like I know in Business Center you can build your API or use some APIs available in the Business Central. Is Alex in F&O is easier to do the things? Is it easy? Is it too complicated? I know it's all development, and
Right.
you are with a base of developer. For me, it's very, very, very complicated. If you give me a task of doing an XML port, probably it will take 1 year with me and it will not work. But for you, based on like here, you can do an API, you can do a page and build your API directly and do the links. What about F&O?
Yeah, I do think Microsoft understands that, ERP data cannot be siloed anymore, right? It has to be easily exportable and safely exportable too, right, to other systems, because you're going to have, your ERP doesn't live by itself anymore, right? It needs to talk to other things. So there's definitely a multitude of different ways to import and export data using things like data entities are big in F&O, right? Where Microsoft has, I don't even know now, thousands of out of the box objects that you can use an external system, right, to either ingest data or push data to F&O, right? So you don't have to actually log into the front end, right? You could set up an integration between systems and have them talk to each other over this common OData structure. You can absolutely create custom APIs. I use both in both my F&O and BC solutions. BC is obviously the OData side, are that standard, but F&O allows you to create your custom APIs itself that you can get post data to. So yeah, there's a number of different integration options, and there's a lot of good resources out there, both from Microsoft and MVPs around the different options you can go there. But I think Microsoft has tried to lower that barrier to entry, especially on the F&O side, to allow for the easy, extensibility of that data.
Gino, do you have anything to add on that?
Nothing to add. I mean,
But
Alex pretty much covered it. I think it just comes down to, is the ERP system following, the standards of API integrations that are out there that other systems, because that's really it's creating that standardization of utilizing, OData structure, JSON, XML, whatever the data comes out as, is it in a readable format for another system to be able to consume? And is the data available to expose in those methods? And I agree with Alex. Microsoft is doing a very good job in exposing more and more of that. But even from talked a little bit on the development side, but you have this common name of citizen developer too now, where there are these middleware applications that you can put in between two systems that don't natively talk to each other. And one of those is is the backbone to a lot of Microsoft's products, which is the Power Platform. So I know on the Business Central side, Microsoft is doing a lot to integrate with the Power Platform, specifically with Power Automate, exposing building out the connector to expose tables and business events to utilize a tool like Power Automate to build some automations without needing a lot of development knowledge, which I think is pretty big as well.
Yeah, that's a point we need to discuss more, because we have Microsoft Dynamics sales, or CE, before. And until now, we don't have a clear integration between, I'm talking about Business Central, a clear integration between BC, Dataverse, and CE. Because the Dataverse is the database of CE, then you have to build it, and they are trying to do some integration in F&O. Is it easier? Is it done? Do we have anything in the cloud here?
Right. So yeah, I mean, I think this gets into the larger architecture discussion, right, of Microsoft business application products in general, right? So obviously Microsoft has decided that the Power Platform / Dataverse is going to be the common theme across different, used by multiple applications. Microsoft would love to have Dataverse be the source of truth for all ERPs. They're not there yet, but I think that that's where they would like to go. So right now you have, interim solutions, something like dual write, which is where data is getting written between F&O and CE, right? Data is getting passed back and forth to build this pipe between them. I think if you ask 10 F&O developers what they think, or integrators or solution architects what they think of dual write, I think you'll get some varied responses on that, because people have different. There are definitely some challenges with that. So, we have some interim solutions for it, but I mean, at the end of the day, you can get the data there, but I think Microsoft, like longer vision, is wanting to have Dataverse be the backbone for business application data, and then you have your ERP sitting on top of it, right? Or you have Power Automate, or Power Platform, or Power BI, right? Data, like everything sitting on top of this common, data solution, and then whatever application wants to hook into it, right? They can, but we're in the process of getting there. It's going to take some time, I think.
Yeah. Again, 18 years ago, every time I meet a customer, the first thing he's asking about reports. All the people needs to implement ERP to print their report at the end of the day. Some analysis, some reporting, and some document. Then I need to send a sales invoice. And sorry to tell you, Alex and Gino, the documents are very ugly in Business Central. Then they didn't change it for the last 10, 15 years. And we have to change something. In F&O, do we have the same? I know that they are doing Word layout, RDLC, and Excel layout, and they are trying to improve and change, but until now, we are not there. Then we are putting implementation and development time on every project because the customer doesn't like the document. Then no header, no correct header, nothing in the report. Data is correct, but the information is not structured in a way that I can send it to the customer directly from Business Central, or I don't know about F&O, but like, oh, wow, I should not put time on the sales order. I should not bill my customer to change the layout for him. Do we have the same at F&O, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, I think the hard part with the reporting side, and I mean, there's entire companies that try to answer this question, which are, uh, everyone wants their data in a slightly different way, right? So the second that you create a report, and in your case, right, you remove time from a sales order, well, somebody else is going to come and say, well, I want that time. I need that there, right? I need to know what. So it's very difficult to create a standardized solution. And granted, I think there are definitely areas where Microsoft can do better to say, here's the available data you can get, right? Letting users pick what they actually want, how they want it to look, right? I think there's definitely work that you can potentially do there. And there's ISVs that obviously do that as well. But yeah, I mean, I deal with that on the ISV side too, is, everyone wants their data to look a little bit different. Everyone wants different, thinks that it should look and feel a certain way. And so it gets a little bit complicated to create that standardized solution. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's definitely something that Microsoft does really well in certain areas and needs improvement in some other areas.
Mhm.
Gino, you are smiling when we're talking about the reporting and documents
Yeah.
in Business Central, because I think we are all on the same level, and we wish to have better reporting and documents.
I agree. I mean, Microsoft did a really good job on the Business Central side, creating the tools to be able to, and keep in mind, I'm going to focus on document type reports. So sales orders, sales invoices, credit memo, et cetera.
Yeah.
Because I have a different opinion on informational based reporting. And so document related reporting, they're custom document layout tool that you can download into Word, download it in Excel, modify the data that you want, or modify the visuals behind the data that you want to be presented, and then uploading it back to the system. It's very cool to see the leaps they have compared to Nav 2016 when, or I believe, one of those earlier RTC versions when this was first introduced. And but yeah, Alex is right. Not all the data is there. There's always that one field on the purchase order that you're like, well, now I got to write some AL code to expose this field so then I can get it on the document layout. So I do think that there's some improvements there. But when it comes to reporting in general, there are other tools out there than writing for non-document related reports. There's tools out there that give you a better visualization of your data than writing an RDLC or a SQL reporting services report. You got Power BI, you have analysis views in Business Central that you can utilize on the small, medium business side, they're not used to, those type of businesses are not used to seeing that type of advanced functionality that's affordable to them. Usually you have to pay a premium price for business intelligence. And today you don't have to do that anymore. You have Power BI right at your fingertips. You have analysis views that are built right into the Business Central client that you can slice and dice your data and save those views within Business Central that weren't available before. So my encouragement to those who are listening is you realize that you're not stuck on RDLC, SQL reporting services, or or just document layouts or just Word or Excel layouts anymore. They're take a look at what you really want to see in that data, and you can probably find a tool where you can build it yourself with little to no development.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're writing code to look at data, like take a step back and we'll look at what's available.
I have a question concerning the database of F&O, or it's on BC. I'm still having customers. Yeah, we need BC on-prem.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have F&O on-prem?
So there is an option for that. I would say that initially there was a very big spike in customers that, when I say initially, I'm talking like 2016, 2017 when it first came out. customers that were on-prem before, and they said, "Oh, well, we have to be on-prem now." And so there was initial rush for that. At least on the F&O side, I will say that the number of customers that I see that are using on-prem F&O has declined significantly since then. I think Microsoft understands they have to have some solution for that, because there are going to be customers that have plants or different subsidiaries or whatever that are in locations that may not have internet, right,
connection.
or connection, or a connection that is usable all the time. But obviously they would love to have be able to focus on the cloud offering, right, and move everybody to that.
Perfect. Let us talk very quickly about the licensing in Business Central. We have 3 types of license for Business Central. We have the Teams, we have the Premium, and we have the Essential.
Yes.
The difference between the Essential and Premium: in Premium, you can use manufacturing and service module.
Correct.
In Essential, you cannot use. You can use all the other things.
That's correct.
In the Essential, the Teams, it's like view only, if you like, or
correct. So when you purchase Business Central, you have to choose one of the 2 main license types, which is Essentials or Premium. And like you had mentioned, you're correct. The premium option within Business Central gets you service management and manufacturing. You get all the other modules with Essentials, and then your Teams-based license is really just for, like you said, it's read-only access to the system. You can do slight things like modifying. You can prepare quotes, modify quotes, convert them into sales orders, you can be an approver on workflows using a team license. So it's really more or less built for inactive users of an ERP system, management. Typically, you see a lot of management that are utilizing a Teams-based license. But one other feature one other license, I wouldn't call it licensing per se, but one other thing that Business Central has that I really like is that I think it was either this last version or the version before, they introduced the ability for you to be able to access read-only data to specific master data within Microsoft Teams without even requiring to pay for a Business Central license.
Okay.
So you can do things like view customers and vendors and products, and view sales orders and credit memos and purchase orders and stuff. You can't modify anything. It's 100% read-only, and you can only access it through the Teams client. But it provides those, users that may just be working a call center that has to look up a customer's information or something like that, or a sales rep that's on a field, service worker that's on the road. Yeah, it's as long as you are utilizing a Microsoft 365, I believe you need one of their enterprise level licenses. Okay. You can have access to your Business Central data from your Teams client without having a business paying for a Business Central license.
And Alex, for F&O, is it easy like this?
No. F&O is kind of the oddball in not just the Microsoft space, but the ERP space, in the sense that the access that a user is assigned is what actually determines the license that's required for that user. So it's very easy to get a user that is over provisioned from an access perspective, and therefore over licensed from an access perspective, right? Or over licensed for what that user is actually doing. And one of the things that is somewhat difficult to do is to try and determine what exactly this user, 1, needs access to do, and then 2, what license do they need for that. So I've actually written a lot of functionality within FastPath. I've done in the FastPath tooling to help with this, but also there's stuff that I've, webinars that I've done on how the process that you would utilize to do this, as well as, I have like free GitHub repository with some functionality to help as well. But it's very, it can get very complex, and I've done entire sessions at conferences just on the licensing side. And I think that is one of the things, speaking with like Microsoft PMs, that they want to get away from as they move towards this consolidated view, right, of Dynamics 365, not is to have the licensing be easier. There's no reason to have a 70-page document that gets released multiple times a year that defines how an ERP is licensed. And even then, the document contradicts itself in certain areas, and Microsoft sales teams don't know how to license it, right? And so then I get pulled into those conversations as well. It's can get very complex and very frustrating for end users. So yeah, it's something that if you have questions about this, there's a bunch of free resources available. But I also, you can also reach out if you are, want to learn more about, the offerings that we have.
To understand more, if I'm a user who's doing only sales orders and Gino do sales order and purchase order, then the license of Gino will be different than my license, and probably it will be more expensive than my license.
Yeah, so
Then
there's
it's
still
by
the three
module or
Yeah, so it's more about so there's still three different license types. There's an operations level license, which Microsoft, of course, breaks out and makes difficult to, across whether you're using finance, supply chain management, retail, talent, project operations, right? And you have these enterprise level licenses which cost X, right? I think it's $180 a month currently, and it's going up to $210 later this year. Then you have like a lower tier license, which is the activity license, which is where you can view some of this data, but maybe not interact with it, right, as much. And then you have the lowest tier, which is team member, which is like putting in time cards and, your expenses and things like anybody that's just, doing the low level access to the system where, they're for that. So there's still those three different layers. It's just how those licenses are determined are different on the F&O side.
I know that I took a lot of your time, but it's the conversation is nice. Only to tell you guys, Gino, Copilot, the last one. Let us finish with the Copilot. In Copilot, in Business Central, you can do bank reconciliation. You can it can write the marketing item description. It can do some analysis for you. 4 or 5, correct? Or we have more?
There's a number. I mean, if you look at the last 2 or 3 release notes for Business Central, it's been less about application functionality and more about what can Copilot do in the ERP system.
Yeah.
At least that's how it's been on the Business Central side from a release note perspective. And Microsoft is continuing to add on to its Copilot functionality within Business Central. Yes, you mentioned, bank reconciliations, marketing suggestions. They're introducing an integration to, Copilot for finance with Business Central. I know that that's an integration that F&O has, already in preview, but that's coming in the next wave for Business Central. And things to make the user experience better. Just asking questions to Copilot in general to be able to get, chat with Copilot to be able to get information about your data within Business Central, doing things like, creating sales order lines, utilizing Copilot. Those are all things that Microsoft is continuing to add to the system to sort of, add additional, productivity to some users. But then Microsoft is, and I've not dug into this as well, so I'm going to stay at the 10,000 foot view, but even the ability to, within AL code to be able to create your own co-pilots within Business Central to do specific functionality, which is pretty cool as well. Something I want to dive into a little bit more, but yeah, it's Microsoft is embedding Copilot into multiple areas of their system.
And Alex, for F&O, what is Copilot?
Yeah.
Is it everywhere or what?
There's different flavors, and of course, Microsoft doesn't make this as easy, right? Because like Gino mentioned, there's Copilot for Finance, which is actually a Excel add-in, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of a misnomer a little bit, or misnamed a little bit. And then you have like your Copilot in, F&O, which is your sidecar, which is your chat and things like that. I think that and again, this is my personal experience and some talking with others. I think there's a lot to be desired there yet. So there's a lot of room for Microsoft to grow. There's a lot of other AI tools that may not be called Copilot, but like invoice capture and the business performance analytics space and the business performance planning space, right? These are all things that are using some sort of AI behind the scenes, right? But may not be called Copilot, for example. But I think, the second, Microsoft is trying to, add in more and more. I think the hard part with this right now, and what I've kind of experienced myself as well as others, is that customers are slightly leery of granting Copilot access to their financial data, right? They don't want to accidentally expose that data to somebody that shouldn't have it. And they're not sure, the overall benefit to cost, right, that they're going to get, right? And so there's Microsoft, and this was one of the feedback I actually gave, and others, not just me, at the MVP Summit this year was, Microsoft needs to have better examples and better showcasing of what exactly the benefits of using Copilot are, right? Then they have some canned demos that they've been showing for the last couple of years, but let's actually see what the how I can better utilize this. How can I make the day-to-day life better of my AR AP person or warehousing person, right, or across the board? Give those examples, because a lot of companies, at least the ones again that I've dealt with, are, is it worth the additional license for each individual, right? Are they actually going to get the benefit, the ROI from it?
Why I'm asking this question, Alex, because always Business Central follow F&O. Then I need to see the future. What is the future of Copilot in Business Central? I need to thank you all, both of you, about this session. I love it because I didn't know anything about F&O before. And this is good for the customers or for the prospects to find and select what they want from their ERP. How is complex their business? Because sometimes a big company or complex company, they will select Nav or Business Central and they will fail. And also the same for F&O. Then always we have to do analysis and check exactly what the customer wants to be able to find the best solution. Both are under the Microsoft umbrella, including or in addition to Power Apps, Power Automate, Power BI, and Microsoft Dynamics CE sales. We have this umbrella is big. We have to select the best for the customer to be able to succeed at the end.
Yep.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.